Good day, listeners. We present to you our podcast, Wounded Hearts, Wounded Churches. We discuss a variety of topics that are important to the church. Examples include sexual abuse, all types of addictions, religious abuse, and recovery. This platform provides counseling sessions, meaningful question and answer, and a counseling continuum. Our co-hosts include, this is Tennille, our technical director. We have an impressive array of program contributors. And I'm your host. My name is Prince, founder of Antioch Youth Center, 501(c) program, licensed counselor, now retired. So join in this exciting podcast, Wounded Hearts, Wounded Churches, and be a part of the healing process. But again, friends, the reason why we're here is to discuss these most important topics that have had effect on the church in the past 100 years. So the opinions expressed, do we always agree? No, we don't. But we do want to discuss these things to reach some resolution, to reach some unity, because we want to be unified much as we can. That's so important. Unity and strength, the solidarity forever. So some discussion sensitive, yes, they are. And they will need some listening and discretion, elicit that discretion for listening and viewing these very sensitive topics. Make no mistake, our main focus, our genre here is just three things. That's why we're here, to promote reconciliation, healing, and forgiveness in the Church of God. That's why we're here, to support reconciliation, healing, and forgiveness within the Church of God. So join us and be ministers of reconciliation. We've been discussing, friends, a very important topic. I mean, layers and layers of it, talking about the woman in the wilderness. And we're discussing how we can do better with these issues when they arise, how to deal with them, how to work through them and decrease lateral damage. Because so many get hurt over divisions. Brother Mullins mentioned last week, and I agree, divisions affects people's faith. It really does. So we want to do all we can to minimize division and within the church. So tonight we have Brother Mullins again, pastor there in Alabama, ministering for years around the country. And we're glad to have him here. He's been on both sides. He knows the different sides of it, and he's seen both sides of it. So we're not throwing stones. We're discussing what happened and how we can do better in the future. So, Brother Mullins, glad you're here. Give him a hand, please.
Well deserved.
So, Brother Mullins, glad you're here again tonight. There's so much to unpack, I tell you. I mean, it's just so much. Well, do you want your letters from last week? Do you want to go into your material or in your written documents? It's up to you. What do you want to do?
Well, let's go ahead and establish some of these documents, and they may answer some ongoing questions.
Very good.
And we can look at those. And keep in mind, you that are listening, keep in mind of what this podcast is all about. And as Brother Moon was expressing, what this podcast promotes. So, when I bring these out, just remember, these are just the facts. Okay,
yes.
And if you've never seen those, I would encourage you, don't take a wrong attitude if you've never seen them. There was a time I had never seen these. And when I did see them, it brought some light, if you will, and I've been mocked for using the word light, or people's got really there's been some people who had some really nasty spirits in this stuff. Okay, wow. And first of all, and if you do that, then shame on you. But so these are just the facts, and so if we could put up so let me start before we put up anything. Yeah, that's fine. It's up. But let me again read the charge from the book that's recorded in the book called A History of the Church of God, 1880 through 2005. And that's written by a young man called by the name of Donald Reed in Yeager, West Virginia. And so this is public information. Best as I remember, you get this book on Amazon. And it still may be out there. So, again, this is totally public, what I'm what I'm speaking of here. So let me read, and it's a very good book. There's a lot of really, really good history, really good information in this book. There's also some misinformation in this book.
Okay. All right.
And so I'm going to read this found on page 112. We touched on this in the beginning of the podcast, but there's questions that keep coming that would obviously some didn't hear this. So this is called this particular page is called the Wilderness Teaching. Is page 112, and he says around 1985, division again rocked the church because of Dwayne Spinogle of Morgan City, Alabama. I'm reading. Spinogle was a powerful preacher who consistently preached on revelation and pastoral authority. Spinogle taught the teaching that the pure woman of Revelation, the 12th chapter, the church, the bride of Christ, became the harlot woman of Revelation, the 17th chapter. He changed the meaning of the symbol itself and taught that the church was destroyed. Now, that's absolutely untrue. Okay? That is absolutely so far from the truth. Okay, and I'll prove it to you momentarily. He changed the meaning of the symbol itself and taught that the church was destroyed. And I don't know how men can live with themselves, to pin something like this.
That's quite a statement that the church was destroyed. I mean,
yeah. And I'm going to read to you. I'm going to read to you momentarily direct statements from the man who was charged, how clear he was in. So this is just unbelievable. And he goes on to say, meaning that at one point in history, the true church ceased on earth.
Wow. Okay,
so and he goes on to say, some now teach the woman in Revelation 12 was the Roman Catholic Church of God. He goes on to say, Spinogle refused to submit to the brethren, and the division occurred. During this division, great men such as Spinogle and Horace Griffin left the body. Okay, now that's their vision of who the body was. An estimated 10 or more congregations followed, including Knoxville, Tennessee, Hattiesburg, Mississippi, Forest City, Arkansas, New Smyrna Beach, Florida, Vern Station, Oklahoma, and many others. The publication for the Wilderness Churches, see, that's a label within itself. And when I met these people, they didn't know anything about being labeled as the Wilderness people. Okay, so you heard the charge. All right.
Okay.
You heard the charge. That what he did. Now, so let's back up in history. 1983, sister, if you could put up that. Okay. Now, so this document comes from the side who was doing the charging. Okay. But if we back up, so remember this division occurred in 1985. It really come to fruition really in 84, but it was official in 1985. Okay, so now let's look at this document here. This document is taken from the remnant. You can see that at the top left-hand corner. That is the church paper that goes out from the Mount Tabor Church of God. And again, I'm not being critical of anyone. These are just public documents. Okay, this was sent out across the land. So this one was in 1983, called Babylon. See, it's part 3, and it was written or it was preached, and I guess then transcribed into the paper, is my understanding. But anyway, the names on it are Paul O'Neill and Jim Burnside, which I'm not familiar with the second name, but I'm very familiar with the first name. But if we look down in the pretty much the bottom paragraph where it's underlined, it'll just kind of get to the point. So he's dealing with, now remember, Brother Spinogle was preaching on the thought, can apostasy affect the church? And he dealt with the great falling away. Okay, so this brother was, or these brethren was teaching this. And I'm not saying what they were teaching was wrong, but I'm saying it's inconsistent with their position. Okay, so I'm going to break in the middle. It said the term falling away, I'm reading there first line that's underlined. The term falling away is taken from the word apostasia. Another form of this word is apostasion, and is found in the following scriptures: Matthew, Mark, and Matthew. I'm not going to call them all out. Here it is translated divorcement and signifies the bill of divorcement. But apostasia signifies a real separation or departure. The scriptures clearly show there would be a departure from the truth and from God.
My.
The teachings of Christ and the apostles were forsaken, and the teachings of men were exalted. When the church departed from Christ, her husband, she committed spiritual adultery. The Lord could not acknowledge her in this condition as his wife. She committed fornication and became a great whore. Thus, we learn what Paul meant when he said the falling away, departure, apostasia, separation shall come first before the end. Okay, if you go on down on the other side, it talks about the humble Christ exalting ministry of the early church was replaced by a proud man exalting order of clergy. Okay, so now we're finding that this same thing that they were saying, without explanation. See, people just take statements and they run with it. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
And I would challenge us all to let's use a little bit of God-given intelligence rather than just grabbing something like a dog grabbing a bone and running with it. Let's stop and examine and hear people out. He that answers the matter before he heareth it's folly to him.
Yes.
So let me read some things to you from Brother Spinogle, who was very, very clear in his teaching. Now, he never said anything to the degree that I just read from the accusing side. If the sister can put up some of those, maybe. So remember, this man was charged with destroying the church and changing the pure woman into a whore. Well, so what we understand here is those that fell away did become the heart. Okay?
Sure.
But nobody, well, let me just say it this way. Brother Spinogle, who was the man who was charged, we read it to you from a public document, never taught that whatsoever. So if the sister can put up some of these documents, maybe the one in bold.
And Brother Mullins, you were there. So you were right there in living color. You got the documentation. So you this is not hearsay. You were actually there. You heard and saw.
Right.
Okay, very good.
Absolutely. Now, I was not a minister at that time.
Right.
Yes, I was in church.
You were there.
I heard all these accusations. And I remember thinking, this is insane. This is so absurd. How could someone believe or teach what they're saying here? And that thought. And then when I found out later on in life that it was not even close to being true. So I'm going to go ahead and read something else. I don't know if she can get it put up there.
I have it up. Do you see it?
Okay, yes, that's the one.
You sure do.
Okay. So that particular, just hold that one up there a minute. What we'll read is in the bold print.
Okay.
So that particular, I've got about 3 messages that have been transcribed. That particular message was the church and the apostasy, number 2, written or preached by Brother Dwayne Spinogle, August 25, 1985. Okay, so let's read that statement. It says, does she have it up still?
Yes, it's still up.
All right. So if we read there in the bold print, there's a few underlines, but in the bold, it says we see a picture here. This is him explaining his position and the teaching of how he saw the church coming through the apostasy in the Dark Ages and all the way down. And that's what we'll be dealing with, some of this. And when you see this, there's just no way you can take the position that was charged. So he says, we see a picture here of the church as it continued. And keep in mind, as it continued, there was generation after generation. James, Peter, Paul, and John, they stayed true, but they died off. Another generation came, another, and another. this portion that apostatized, the church when it apostatized, that's not my spiritual mother. My spiritual mother are those who started this and stayed true, and that remnant that stayed true down through here. And he was obviously dealing with the chart. That's my spiritual mother. These that apostatized and gave over to this and cooperated with this, they are not my spiritual mother. So he was very, very clear in his teaching. And I can go through some others. Another message would be the previous, would have been the previous service from August 21st, 1985. And I have some transcripts here. I don't know if you can get those up or not. Let's see. Okay, no, it's not that one. We go on. I'll give it a second. Let's see that. Okay.
And friends, we're doing this to just get down to the facts, to discuss these things, get to the bottom of it, so we can do better in the future. So as issues arise, which they will, we can understand better how to handle these things. Because people bring problems, we know that. We want to have a better handle on it to decrease and de-escalate division in the church, the home, or wherever we see it. So we're learning to do better with these situations. They're going to occur. We want to know how to handle them in a better way with God guiding us, Holy Ghost giving us power to do so.
Now, I have this here.
Okay, that's fine.
But I'm not sure if this is what you were looking for.
No, that's fine. Let me just go to that one. I've got it in my hand. So this particular message right here is the message that actually the church split over. Okay, it was preached in 1984 at the Alabama camp meeting, as you can see there.
Wow.
And so he's beginning to make statements verifying that God's always had a church. Okay, so that was just an absurd charge. And just all down through here, he begins to say, I'm part of that church. I'm part of the same church that was in the morning time church. I'm part of those saints that stayed true down through the papalism. I'm part of those saints that stayed true down through Protestantism. I'm part of the church in the evening time. He goes on to say fire couldn't burn it. Lions couldn't eat it. Papalism couldn't stamp it out. Protestantism couldn't do away with it. And thank God it's going to go right on. These are some of the statements that the brother was making. And this was charged as false doctrine. And so we can see there was a lack of reason here. This brother was as clear. When it took me several years to get this message because I'd heard about it. And I thought, I want to get it. I want to hear this myself. And because things began not lining up. And so I actually have the audio of this. And if anyone's interested in, I'd be glad to send it to them. And it's about 2 hours and 15 minutes. And the brother was as clear as a bell in this preaching. And even at one point, I had some clips, audio clips from this message on my phone. And I went into a minister's meeting in 2016. And I was very naive and I was innocent really of what had happened. I thought, well, just some people had made mistakes. So this is going to be easy. We can rectify this. This is just, so clear. It's in black and white. And I talked to a brother who was very influential at that time in Virginia. And I said, brother, I'd like to talk to you before we go into this meeting. I want you to hear this. I said, I don't know what you all dealt with back in your day. I wasn't, in the ministers' meetings at that time. I said, but I want you to listen to this. And this was actually a clip from this message. And the brother was just as clear and he was laying it down. And I said, now this is what the people have heard. So I don't know, what you may have heard. And, brother, that minister pointed his finger at my phone just like that. And he said, if that's what he had been preaching, we would not have divided. Well, that was what he was preaching in the 1984 Alabama camp meeting. Okay. And so
Brother Mullins, you have the transcript there, and that split the church.
Yes, yes,
Wow. That
yes.
that that gives chills to
It
me
really
because
does.
I
It
mean it's
really
just
does.
Brother Mullins, our time is gone again. So friends, we gonna have him back again. We need to discuss some more of the because the documents are there. I mean, we can't refute that. And then also we're going to talk about those 5 areas that we're learning through these sessions to de-escalate division in the home or in the church, anywhere it raises ugly head, to maintain unity, because solidarity forever is what works. So we're going to talk about this documentation next week, Lord willing, and we're going to go into those areas of how we can de-escalate. And the last session, Lord willing, Brother Mullins tried to reconcile both groups together. We're
Mhm.
going to find out how that happened, how it was worked out, if it was. I was not there. So we got to find out more about this. We can learn from our past issues and situations. So, Brother Mullins, any last minute ideas you want to give before we go tonight?
No, I could just say if anyone would like to look at these a little more deeper, they can feel free to call me at 256-487-3862. I've actually met with different people since this time. I've met with one young brother up in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. Went over all
Good,
these documents with him. Uh,
good,
it
good.
didn't accomplish what we had hoped for, but it gave opportunity for people to see what I see.
Good, good. Praise the
And,
Lord.
and I'd be glad to do that going forward. Be glad to meet
Wow.
someone. I'm not willing to mail all this out, but I am glad. I would be glad to meet with someone because this took me years to obtain all this. So I'm hanging on
Brother
to
Mullins,
it.
how about someone who it affected their faith so badly they just stopped going to church? The division affected their faith. They're sitting at home. What'd you say about them tonight?
Well, I would say, let God be true. Let every man be a liar, and let God be true. So God is still true, no matter what people have done to disappoint us or to fail us. God is still true, and His word is still true.
Brother Mullins, there's so many who've been hurt these past years, and I'm going back to when I was a little fella. Some have lost their minds. I'm not going to mention the names now, but I saw them, and it was just so. Our family moved to California, over these things, and it's just devastating. So we're going to take what you're saying. They need to seek the Lord, put Him first. And I thank you, Director. Any ideas from you tonight before we go?
No, sir. That'll be all. Thank you.
All right. And if you have comments, please get them in. We can take them during the week also, too. We skipped our commercial because I felt so bad. I interrupted Brother Mullins last week. I felt so bad all week long. I interrupted him. I said, man, what are you doing? So I said, tonight, no interruptions. We're going to let him, see what he say. So I do apologize, Brother Mullins, for interrupting
No
you last
problem,
week.
brother.
I
No
am sorry
problem.
about that.
Not a
So we
problem.
thank you, my friends. See you next week. Our director, thank you also. And our listeners, may the Lord bless you. Have a good night tonight.